Welcome to the Downtown Madison Happenings podcast. I'm Jason Ilstrup, president of Downtown Madison Inc., and we're excited to welcome Angela Russell, the Chief Diversity Officer, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion at TruStage, host of the Black Oxygen podcast, and I will say most importantly, DMI board member. We're going to talk to Angela about all things downtown, TruStage, her great career. We want to say a thanks to our sponsors before we begin. American Family Insurance opened its first offices in downtown Madison in 1927. And its downtown presence continues today with the Spark Building, which is home to the American Family Insurance Institute for Corporate and Social Responsibility and the Dream Bank, an inspirational community space. Still based in Madison, American Family's company's mission is to inspire, protect, and restore dreams through exceptional products, services, and community partnerships. Hello, Angela Russell. How are you?
Jason, it's so good to see you. I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, I gotta admit, I'm a little bit stressed out about this podcast because for those that don't know, Angela Russell is a Wisconsin podcast star with Black Oxygen. So the roles are reversed. So there is a lot of sweat underneath my armpits right now. I'm not going to be raising my arms at all.
Good to know. Thank you so much for sharing.
Is that really good to know?
Yes, the vulnerability, yes. Jason.
Well, you've got to be vulnerable because we were with Angela Russell, one of my favorite people in town. We're going to talk about all things Angela Russell to start with, and then we're going to talk about downtown. She recently became a DMI board member, and we're excited to have her as part of our team. We're also going to talk about her wildly famous Black Oxygen podcast. Does that sound good to you, Angela?
Yeah, I would strike the word wildly famous, but sure.
I don't know. You and I have been out and about around town, and people know who you are.
It's really weird.
Yeah, so see, I'm not making this up. You think I was making this up, don't you?
You're just so energetic, optimistic, and amplify so many people's voices. It just, I feel lucky to know you, Jason.
Wow, you do the exact same thing. All right, we're going to get into you, not about me. We're going to get into you. You have this incredible resume, Angela. You have done so many different things with your career, and your career is still so young. You worked for the governor's office. You worked in state government. You worked in public health at UW. Now you're working on the corporate side. How does all of this fantastic work and what you've done really help inform your work as a chief diversity officer at TruStage today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll just tell you a little bit about my journey, about how I got here, if that's okay. Does that work for you, Jason?
Absolutely.
All right. So I attended Beloit College, a small liberal arts college in Beloit, Wisconsin. And my intention was to become a pediatric oncologist. I wanted to work with kids who had cancer. This is not going to surprise you, Jason. I was a bit of a nerd in high school, and I was on.
Wait, why would that? I'm not surprised by that. No, I'm not. Wait, no, I think I said the wrong thing. Great. I am surprised by that.
You are not.
I know. There we go.
I was a nerdy nerd in high school, on the speech team, went to speech camp. You know how people do like camping trips for like fun things like sports and band or whatever? No, I did speech camp, and all my speeches were focused in on kids living with cancer. Yeah, so
you're a giver. I mean, look, no one deserves cancer, but particularly kids. And so it shows you how big your heart is, Angela.
Yeah, that's what my focus was for many, many years when I was young. And I went to undergrad at Beloit College. And in between my sophomore year and junior year in college, I had an internship at the state health department. And that internship was all about looking at disparities between Black and white women in breast cancer mortality. And then I got really interested in population health and things about how cultures and race impact health of populations. So I ended up going to grad school here at UW-Madison to get my master's degree in population health with a focus on chronic disease epidemiology. And when I was in grad school, there was a center at the medical school called the Center for the Study of Cultural Diversity in Healthcare. So I worked there when I was in grad school, and I worked there after I graduated from grad school for a little bit. And it all was about culture, health, and healthcare access. So that got my wheels turning a lot about how diversity and different forms of diversity impact everything. So I did that for a while, and then I became a epidemiologist at the state health department. I focused in on hepatitis C, hepatitis B, and co-infection of HIV and Hep C within our prison population in Wisconsin, which was, again, a very narrow population with very specific needs that vary from like outside of, outside of the incarceration system. There is a very specific focus on Hep C and HIV co-infection. So did a lot of analyses around that. And then I went through this thing called Wisconsin Women in Government, all about how women could get engaged in government leadership roles. And I went through that program, loved it, made some connections that I still have to this day. And all the while I was working at the state, going through this program, I was also on the city's Affirmative Action Commission. So all of these things around diversity, culture, health, were kind of always at the forefront. And then I worked briefly for the lieutenant governor on her Lieutenant Governor Barbara Lawton on her Wisconsin Equals Prosperity initiative. And then I went to Governor Doyle's office and talked to Tim Casper, who was a DMI board member at the time. I mean, he wasn't a DMI board member at the time, but at the time he was a policy director for Governor Doyle. And I said, hey, I would love to work for Governor Doyle at some point in my life. He's like, send me your resume. And then I became a policy advisor in Governor Doyle's office with Tim Casper as my boss. I just want to pause there, Jason.
Full circle. Tim is, they're now DMI board members together.
Yes. Yeah. So he was my boss. And then there was a budget cycle, and this must have been in the 2006, 2008 budget cycle. I don't remember specifically. Governor Doyle wanted to create the Department of Children and Families. And it was going to be the first department in the history of our state to have an exclusive focus on the social and economic well-being of children and families. Governor Doyle appointed me to be a member of that 3-member team to get that department up and running. So he announced that December of 2007, we were supposed to get it up running by July 1st of 2008. I had my first kid August 5th, 2008. So there was a lot happening. And for that department, I became I think it's called right now, the Assistant Deputy Secretary of that department, overseeing constituent relations, government relations. And I learned a lot here about tribal relations as well. So I kind of oversaw that body of work. And I just want to put a pause there because I want to talk about how there's no perfection in the space of DEI. I think that sometimes people see us DEI practitioners or leaders as knowing all the things and having to get it right all the time. And I just have such a classic, embarrassing story about myself and how I got it wrong when I was at DCF. So our Secretary Rajabika at the time, got a constituent note about something from someone, I don't remember what tribe, but it was a tribal relations issue. And he's like, Angela, can you respond to it? And at the end of the email, it just said Miigwech. And I responded, Dear Miigwech. That was dumb of me because Miigwech is Ojibwe for thank you. So I said, Dear thank you. And I'm like, and then they responded back, we're like, hey, just so you know, this means thank you. My name is actually this. And I was mortified. Here I am overseeing all of these things. And it's just like, you learn every day. And I've had so many of those learnings throughout my career. So that's that. And then after I was a part of the Doyle administration, I went to the Population Health Institute, where I worked on the County Health Rankings Project, which is a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation funded project. And the project is all about ranking the health of every county across the nation within their state according to how healthy they are and how healthy they're projected to be. And one of the things that got drilled into me, both in my grad school program, but again, when I was with the County Health Rankings Project, is how much economic and social well-being of communities drives health of communities. So that's a connection a little bit, not a little bit, but the connection of why I'm in corporate right now. So after the university, I went to the local health department to do health equity with a focus on racial equity and health in Madison and Dane County. And then I got to join CUNA Mutual, now TruStage, through a play date. So the way that I ended up kind of being recruited here was my son's best friend's mom invited my son Ben over for a play date. She's like, hey, do you want to stay and we can just catch up and talk? And I'm like, sure. She was telling me about this position that they were thinking about creating because they had a new focus on inclusion. What do we need in the position? What would the person do? And then do you know anyone who would be interested in applying? I'm like, huh, I think I do know someone. And it was so interesting because I told my parents I would never, ever, ever go corporate. They both worked in corporate. I just didn't like what I saw. And here I am in corporate now over 8 years, and I love it.
But you're still, the through line is health. It's public health. You're still affecting the health and well-being. Yep. You know, at one point you thought it was going to be cancer patients. Now you're just working in a different area. Yep. What about the health of individuals is so important to you in your work now?
So I know that people cannot be healthy unless they have, well, they can, but it's harder to create healthy communities without access to financial goods and services. And what we do and the products that we have are so important. And the way I think is actually kind of important to the field of insurance as well. But when I think about our motto of creating a brighter financial future for everyone, we can't do that unless we understand the changing demographics of our nation and understand how products and services need to be adapted to meet the changing needs of our populations over time. So one of the products that we have is life insurance, and life insurance is such a big deal for so many communities as it relates to generational wealth. So making sure that your assets are protected and that you can pass those down from generation to generation, and creating that access to financial well-being, which will help around health in general.
One of the things I think you've done so well is taken the platform that you've built through your excellent career and turned it into another platform, into Black Oxygen, talking again about health, particularly in the Black community. Tell us why you started Black Oxygen and why, you're going to hate this question, but why do you think it's become so successful? Because you're wildly successful.
OMG. Right. I just needed to take a moment to pause and say, OMG. Before I get to Black Oxygen, I also talk about the thing that I love about working in insurance, again, which sounds so weird to come out of my mouth, is that I love talking to our actuaries and underwriters around life tables and what are some of those drivers, and how do we make sure that we don't have unintentional discrimination going on with life tables if we know that there's a disparity in life expectancy. So how do we I kind of nerd out and geek out, and I love just how much there is to learn. And I'm like, holy shit, I don't know enough. I got to learn more. And so being here helps with my appetite for curiosity and learning a lot, because I feel like I never know enough. Were you going to say something before I go on to Black Oxygen?
No, I was not. Nope.
All right.
But I swear something has taken over my computer because it just keeps unmuting and muting. So, but you don't know that, but now you pointed it out to everybody.
Yeah. So Black Oxygen came about when I was on a work trip. I go out and give talks on DEI to a lot of our credit union partners across the nation. And I was in California. This was pre-pandemic, right before the pandemic, giving a talk, getting ready to give a talk the night before. My colleague and I, who was at this credit union, went out to dinner and we were talking. He's a Black guy from Inglewood. I'm a Black woman in Madison. And he's always so buttoned up. And we were talking about how he's so buttoned up and business-like and super, together. And I'm me. And he's like, you're so power to the people. And you're not around a lot of Black folks in Wisconsin. Then he jokingly said, you need some Black Oxygen in your life. And I'm like, whatever. Okay. And that phrase stuck with me. And I journaled about it. And it's like, that's such an interesting concept. And then one day I met Henry Sanders and my colleague Opal Tobenshevska for lunch. I was telling him about this conversation and Black Oxygen, and Henry's like, you should write a column called Black Oxygen. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I'm a slow writer. I'm a very slow writer. So I'm like, well, what about doing a podcast? And he's like, well, I don't know. Let's think about it. And I thought about it. I'm like, Henry, we got to do this. We got to do it. He's like, well, it'll take some cost. There's costs associated with it. And I'm like, cool, I'll pay for it because I thought that there was something here. Let me just pay for it. And he's like, no, 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 don't do that. I'm like, okay, we can try 6 episodes and see what happens. We did 6 episodes starting 3 years ago, and now we're hundreds of episodes in. And yeah, it's become like a foundational uh, kind of component of my life, a foundational ritual component of my life. I tend to take a little bit of a break in the summer from recording. So I just started recording again for the fall. But yeah, I love it. And it just seemed to resonate way more than I thought that it would. I'm not sure why. I know that I like it. I love getting to connect with people. And one of the things I love the most is amplifying Black voices in the state that you wouldn't necessarily know or hear from regularly. There are some Black leaders that you hear from on a regular basis, but part of the intention was to get some of those voices who are amazing, but you wouldn't necessarily know about or hear from on a regular basis.
It's just amazing podcast. I would highly, highly, highly recommend listening in. You are also a champion for downtown. Why is downtown so important for you? But it's also, you've told me many times, it's important for TruStage, even though TruStage does not have a downtown campus. So why is first downtown important for TruStage, and why is it important for you?
Yeah, I think it's important for TruStage is that we have so many people coming to Madison for a variety of business reasons. And generally, people either stay in Middleton or stay downtown. And we like when they stay downtown because you get that more of a Madison experience because downtown has so much to offer. I used to live very close to downtown, as you know, off of Monroe Street. And and now that I've moved a little bit further west, I'm accessing downtown in a different way. And I have an even more of appreciation of downtown now that I live just a few miles outside of downtown, which is weird. I was just thinking about that as I was driving in yesterday, and I'm like, gosh dang it, John Nolan Drive. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. But when I moved to Madison in '99, I lived in Eagle Heights housing initially for grad school, and then I lived in Quisling Terrace right on Gorham, and just to be able to walk everywhere. And gosh, that's when Room of One's Own was downtown. I would walk to Room of One's Own, walk to Michelangelo's. It was so accessible to the university by bike, and it's just vibrant. And now when I drive downtown, I'm like, wow, this is something special and something that I think is easy to take for granted. So sometimes I want to be a tourist in my own downtown and see things with an exploratory lens as opposed to, downtown Madison, that's for those, fancy white people. It's not for me. But it is for me. And I think that we all are doing a lot to make it a place for everyone.
So what do you think downtown Madison is doing well, and what does it lack?
The food scene is freaking incredible. I love that I could go to an incredible restaurant and like actually walk off the meal afterwards. I love freaking Jenna's. Jenna's downtown for me for several years was my extended living room, and I met so many incredible people. I met some people who I consider dear friends now, just chilling at Jenna's. The coffee shops, the farmers market. And I have toyed back and forth about the downtown farmers market sometimes because you got to get there at the right time so you don't feel like you're stuck in a tourist trap and can't move. But it's so beautiful. It's so freaking beautiful. And when I worked in government, I worked in the Capitol, in the city county building, in Department of Health Services building. And so much of my formative career years were spent downtown. It was easy for me to take it for granted and not see it with a lens of an explorer. And now that I don't have that, I'm like, whoa, I love this space. I love how it's able to connect people. And I see a lot more diversity than I did 20 years ago downtown. Not diversity in a weird tokenistic way, but in a diversity in people are actually engaging in really beautiful ways downtown.
Okay, if you could open one business downtown, being on
Oh, you went off mute.
my computer is, I think it's being taken over by gremlins currently. So here we go.
It is. It is.
It is. Something's very weird. All right, one business that is not currently downtown. You're an entrepreneur. What would you open?
Oh, easy. A boutique, super boutique hotel on the Capitol Square that's a bookstore, vinyl shop, and plant store. And that would have jazz concerts every once in a while.
Okay, well, you know, I used to work in hotels. Why don't I'll do the hotel part, you do the music bookstore part of things as well. Maybe we can put an above Lake City Books. Are you in?
Oh, that would be incredible. There's this awesome hotel in DC, and I don't remember the name of it. They had like a little gift shop with books in there, vinyl. Every bedroom had a vinyl record player, and in the evening, they have on the rooftop, there's an indoor space and an outdoor space, but the indoor space had this incredible tile work mural, and they had a live DJ just playing some tunes, and the restaurant was on the main floor. It was incredible. So that mix of vinyl, books, I want something more with a vibe, right? So for me, what I think the opportunity for downtown is more of I don't know how to say it other than a cool vibe that's beyond Badgers, that's beyond fried cheese curds, that infuses jazz and a chill vibe that has art, and where it can be much more multi-generational, like from your mid-20s to your mid-70s or 80s, you want to go and have this space of vibing and connection. And yeah, I would also love a mocktail place, a dedicated mocktail bar.
As non-drinker, I could not agree with you more. Although I will say more and more places are doing that, which is great. Yes. Although this is going to be hyper specific and our audience is not going to care. I don't like carbonation, and I feel like every mocktail has some sort of carbonation.
That is very hyper specific. Although I was at Sardine yesterday, I had 2 mocktails without carbonation.
Oh, let's go. We're going out. Next Sunday. We're going out and we're going to go. That's what we're doing. All right, Angela, are you ready?
Wait, here's another thing that I would love
please.
In downtown. I would love a miniature Midwest Essence Fest in downtown, where we have a huge number of Black women come to learn about well-being, fitness, reading, books, like a miniature version of what happens in New Orleans for the Midwest in Madison.
Let's do it. Yeah. We're in.
Yeah. I don't know how to make that happen, but that would be
great. We can all figure it out together.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Angela, are you ready for the Fast and Furious 5? We're going to ask you 5 questions. Whatever comes to the top of your mind first, that's your answer. Are you ready?
No.
Was that I can't ask then?
Is that the first question?
All right, they're pretty easy. It's not like existential questions like, what do you think about, Immanuel Kant? No, it's more questions like, what's your favorite restaurant in downtown Madison?
Ooh, I don't have a favorite. That's like picking a favorite child, but I can tell you the restaurant that I had the most recent fabulous experience at.
Perfect. Yes.
Tornado Room. It was an impromptu. I called one of my friends last week. I'm like, hey, what are you doing for dinner? Nothing. Want to go to the Tornado Room? Absolutely. And my God, I don't know what happened. It was like such a beautiful experience. The food was perfect. They had this sweet corn with salted butter and paprika. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I overate because the food was so delicious. You know how sometimes you get the meat sweats?
Oh, yes. When you smell it in your palms.
Yeah, I didn't get the meat sweats. I had the overeating sweats. And I'm like, it was worth it. Was that TMI? Was that TMI?
No, because we're getting very specific. I told people I didn't like carbonation. I remember when I was younger and you'd go out more at night and you would make that regrettable decision of going to White Castle at like 3 a.m. and
I've
then
never
you'd wake
done
up.
that. Just never had that experience.
You would wake up in the morning and your pillow, like your pores would be oozing out White Castle, and like your pillow would smell like White Castle.
That's
honestly
disgusting.
I kind of like White Castle, but at any rate, we don't have one here in Madison. I think the closest one is in Racine. Yeah, we got to get one. All right, what's your favorite night spot? If you're gonna go out at night, where are you going?
Taverna. Because I think it's the first Saturday of the month, and I did this much more pre-pandemic. They have this great dance hall, DJ VPS, and it's just awesome. And then before the pandemic, VPS would spin at Jenna's on the second Saturday, and it was just so delightful because it was almost like you weren't even in Madison anymore, and people just vibing and dancing and just having a good time. But Taverna, but also, so there's that dancing part that I really love. But an evening with classical music at the Overture also sounds just as lovely. So lots of different things that I like to do in downtown.
You are the great downtown champion. All right. Favorite festival downtown?
I hate festivals.
Okay, well then strike that question. We're not going to go. What do you forget it. We're only going to do the Fast and Furious 4.
Unless it's the Essence Fest. Unless it's
all right, perfect.
Fest.
The soon to be created Essence Fest.
Yeah.
All right. My last question, and you basically asked this question earlier in our podcast. You have if someone's coming as a tourist, what's the perfect day for you in Madison with that tourist to show off the best of downtown?
Oh, okay. Well, farmers market for sure. What is that? Why am I blanking on the name of the cafe that's right by Lake City Books?
Bradbury.
Absolutely, Bradbury. Then a visit to Lake City Books, of course. There needs to be a good place for napping, so we could take a nap, but not like the Snuggle House. That was weird.
No. There is one of those like wave places off of King Street and East Wilson. You know, where you like lie in the water.
Oh yeah,
Float Madison.
Yeah. Float. Okay, or a hammock with a nap, and then maybe walking down to James Madison Park, just to read for a little bit. And then what else would I do? Oh, if they're into nails, we got to go to the shop. That's where I get my nails done. The shop, yes. And the tea cider is one of my favorites. And then maybe in the evening.
Wait, the what? The tea cider?
Yeah, the tea cider.
What's
it's a tea place on Johnson.
Oh, yes, I know that. Okay, I'm sorry.
It used to be matcha tea, but now they're
I didn't know they changed their name. I didn't know they changed their name. Yeah, they were matcha when I was on Monroe Street, and then they moved to Johnson Street. Now, yes, this is very specific podcast. Very specific.
And then dinner, maybe at Little Tibet, and then a mocktail or cocktail at the Robin Room.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to ask you one more question because we didn't get to 5. Do you like ice cream?
No, I'm lactose intolerant.
I mean, okay, never mind. We're just going to move. I was going to ask your favorite Babcock flavor, but clearly that's not it.
No. I used to, was there the something that's not
that is, you really described that perfectly, that I'm completely able to understand what is in your mind right now.
There's something related to pecans.
There's
to something.
I don't.
It was like
we'll have
20
to have a
years
listener
ago.
tell us. I love ice cream, and I don't know what you. I don't know. I don't know. There's the famous flavor at Chocolate Shop with the this blank just got real. I can't say that word on our podcast.
Yeah. But why would you want that as an ice cream?
Because it's the mixture of the flavors are really good. I don't know why they named it that way, but it's really
okay.
Good. Yeah. All right. Here we go. All right. This has been amazing. You now know that Angela's lactose intolerant. You now know that I don't like carbonation. We've really solved the world's problems, but honestly, someone that is solving the world's problems, our health problems in particular, is Angela Russell, the Chief Diversity Officer at TruStage. We are so thankful for your time and your commitment now to the DMI Board of Directors. You are just such a champion for downtown. We can't wait. Let's build this Midwest Essence Fest right here in downtown. Angela, thank you for all you do. And thank you to our friends at American Family Insurance for your support of the Downtown Happenings podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks, Jason.